Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from Mason Works Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone today with my friend James Bonato. James is a documentary filmmaker. You had this passionate hit to share about it. Could you talk about this journey that you've had? Because it's like you discover something and then you want everybody to know about it. Is that right?
That is exactly right. Yeah. I really want to make documentary films to inspire and make a positive difference in this world. Doesn't always work, but I try really hard to make a difference. And all five of the films that I've had have that theme. So that's why I do this. And I don't really make any money on the documentary films. These are affairs of the heart. The way I make my money in my career is videographer, but I've been doing that for about 35, 36 years now. And documentary films are just something that I do on the side. This particular film, Resilience Has a Face, came to me because of the subject of the film, who's Dr. Sandra Rhode. And quite frankly, I made the film because I wanted to inspire people. And I invite the whole audience to watch this film because I think everybody is going to find something in this film to be inspiring. It is a film about Dr. Sandra Rhode, who came from a ghastly childhood. It was so bad, it's hard to talk about it. But her childhood was just in the lowest, dirtiest part of the gutter. And she clawed her way out to become a member of a society. And not only that, she exceeded that and now is really just at the top pillar of a person who gives to the environment. It's mainly towards children, but adults too. Adults will absolutely get something out of it. I don't really think, Kathy, that 1.5 million people could accomplish what Dr. Sandra Rhode has accomplished. Quite frankly, if we all were in that situation, her childhood, we would either be an alcoholic or a drug addict, or we would be in jail, or maybe we would be dead. But she finds a way, and just inspiration, inspiration, inspiration.
Well, what I love about the films that I've seen from you, there was a Covert Narcissist film and Near Death Experience, and now Resilience Has a Face. They all are talking about the human condition and giving us new heroes. This doctor, she's a hero. She is a real hero. That those stories are the ones we want to tell, not the basketball player that makes a bazillion dollars, or the, well, do you know what I mean? I mean, we have a chance to be inspired and go, pat yourself on the back, clean yourself off and just start again. Cry, whatever you have to do, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of people are falling down because of something that happened to them or some unfairness or whatever. And especially with Resilience Has a Face, there's an axiom. I'm not sure if I'm quite quoting it correctly. Some people say you have to hit rock bottom in order to heal, probably because when you're at rock bottom, there's nowhere else to go but up. But Sandy teaches that through the film, that whatever stage you are in falling, there's inspiration, and you can pick yourself up. And the examples are just marvelous.
Right, right. Well, so when you're doing these films, how did you find this story? Because there's got to be, you must have this angel on your shoulder that says, "Okay, James, you told them all about this. What's the next thing we should do?" So you're not done for sure. But what would you say is the inspiration? What like how did you even find her?
Well, we've known each other for about 35 years now. I'll get to that. But you know me very well, Kathy. You know all about me, and you know that I try and wake up every morning trying to make a difference. I fail at it a lot of times, but um, I really basically try and change my little corner of the world that I can try and affect. I mean, I would love to do it on a grandiose scale, but that's just not going to happen. So, with my documentary films, I try and maybe plant a seed in somebody else's head that you can change. And I don't know how many people I'm reaching by my documentary films. I'm hoping there's something, but it all comes from that.
Right. Well, you're obviously on a journey, and they're just getting better and better. The angles that you're getting these people at, and the passion that you're sharing, and the interaction of the people in it, it's getting better and better. So yeah, I'm just excited to see what's coming next. I mean, but anyway, well, let's give this video. So first of all, so everyone knows, all of James's videos are free, correct?
The documentary films, yes.
Documentary. Sorry, I don't want to make sure I say that. Um, and they all are potentially life changing.
Yes.
The opportunity to look at your life through a different lens is palpable in them, correct?
Correct. And this film more than any other.
Right. So why don't we right now show the trailer real quick, okay?
Okay.
She is unstoppable. She's resilient. They build walls in front of her. She's going to find a way to get over, around, or penetrate through.
Meet my grandmother, Dr. Sandra Rode. She was caught in a web of frequent struggles, a web of unspeakable hardships that seemed impossible to escape from.
The only thing I could think of when I would think about those years were me hammering a nail in some guy's eye on the floor. I was afraid to accept love. I don't even know what that felt like.
If you're in the gutter and you got nobody else to turn to outside of God, trust you me, that's the woman you want on your team.
I saw myself talking to God, and I would say to him, if you give me an opportunity to get out of the way I feel and how that I am, I promise you, if they have any issues, I'm gonna be there to help. When we're in camp, it was almost as if they were all my children.
Just her presence invokes something in you to want to do better. You can't be in her presence and settle.
I found it like you wanted to cheer in parts of it, because again, we need new heroes. We need people that have gone through ups and downs and still came through with their highest knowing and their highest capacity and the biggest heart ever. They didn't let their story define them. They actually use that as a way to step out of it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There was a point, because I had the hardest part of my life was 3 years ago. I had something very unfairly done to me.
Right.
And I remember when I was going through it, I was thinking about it and I said, you know what? I'm never going to get over this. I think this is just going to last forever. But when you watch Resilience has a face, you're going to go, oh, we are so capable of doing stuff that we had no idea that we could come out of and accomplish. So I certainly came out of mine because of this film, and I'll probably expand on that a little bit later, but we're capable of doing so much more.
Well, the thing is that when we look at what's being shown for entertainment at this point. You either have edutainment where you're learning something about science or whatever, and then you have these other stories, and unless you're going to Hallmark, they're full of violence. I mean, it's just, for sensitives like me, it's like I can hardly. I wake up still seeing the scenes if I see it, if I watch it.
And not only the violence, but revenge.
Right.
Revenge is like now. So you and I, as you said earlier, we met on the film Peace on Both Sides of the Gate, which is about near-death experience. And both you and I learned, or at least I learned from these NDEers, that love is the cornerstone of humanity.
Right.
All right. So as we go through that, and if we're thinking about revenge, and Kathy, I'll be honest with you, 3 years ago, I wanted to physically hurt this person who hurt me. But as Sandy points out in the film several times, revenge has nothing to do with love being the cornerstone of humanity. All right. Everybody's got a mission. We've got a little bit of different mission. We've all got a purpose. Every one of us should have love as part of that purpose. And revenge doesn't have anything to do with that. If you watch the film, and when you watch the film, you'll count like 3, 4, 5, 6 times where Dr. Sandra Rhode really revenge would have been warranted. It would have been merited. And it's only brought out once, and it's in the very beginning of the film where she's still having trouble with one thing that she's having a hard time getting over. But revenge is not the way. And I agree with you, Kathy, that, and today those are the popular films.
Emotional and physical scars are so similar that they can also be a brick wall either way, right? I mean, this is really, I don't even know if you realized what you're doing, that you're bringing these beautiful stories to light.
Well, I tell you, she, of course, has a physical scar. She even talks about it, but she has many. And it was very, very difficult for her to tell the story. First of all, she's not a person who likes to toot her own horn. She doesn't like doing that. But she had to in order to make this film. I kind of am the same way. I don't really like to toot my own horn either, but here I am on an interview, so I have to toot it a little bit. But what had happened was I was trying to make this film, trying to get a subject for it. And quite frankly, it was her grandson, Trayvon, who came to me and said, I think you should do a documentary film on my grandmother. And I said, well, goodness gracious, I've known her for 35 years. I agree with you, but I don't think that she's going to want to do it. And I was right. She didn't want to do it. It took a lot of I don't want to use the word prodding, but maybe that's the best word. I talked to her and I said, your grandson thinks that we should make a film about you. And she goes, you know what? I'm a therapist. I have to be concerned about my clients. I have to be concerned about how the world looks at me. I don't really want to tell the whole world about what happened to me. She also had to think about her family, how her family was going to respond to this, which was critical. And so I was trying to, I was trying to push the envelope, let's say that. And I said, hey, Sandy, you and I have done how many assignments together over the last 35 years? Like 50 assignments, video things where you're in front of the camera and I'm behind the camera and I'm looking at you. And for 35 years, I've panned left and panned right on you. I've zoomed in, I've zoomed out. I know you very well. And you know me very well. You know how I like to tell stories through video. I said, so you in front of the camera, me behind the camera? Come on now. I think we're going to come up with something. So a couple of weeks later, I guess she chewed on that, but I'm sure there were other factors that made her text me and said, James, I want to do the film, or I'm going to do the film. Because when Sandy Rhodes says that she's going to do something, she's going to do it. So she committed to the film. And as we made it together, well, her being in front of the camera, and I did all the editing, of course, you come up Kathy, with something called the first draft. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And when you make a film, whether it be a documentary film or anything, the first draft is never the final draft, right? So with Resilience Has a Face, which was very difficult to make because of so many variables, surprise, surprise, I got too close to the film. I was trying to make it, and I was so think about walking into an art gallery and you see a beautiful mural on the wall. And think about walking right up to it and putting your nose to the thing. You can't see it. You're too close. You got to back up. And it got to the point where I couldn't even look at the film. I didn't even know what I had. I was so close to it. Sandy, she had the same problem. She saw the first draft and she goes, man, this is a film about my life. How am I going to be objective? So we kept working on it. And Kathy, I want you to guess how many drafts there were to make the final film.
I have no idea, but I've helped on films before where we had groups meet at like we'd have Thanksgiving dinner and someone would give me a test video, and then we all would say this is where make this shorter, make this longer, all of that. I bet say 10 drafts. I don't know.
You're very close. It was 8.
Wow,
So
that's a lot of work.
The film that is now finalized and has been finalized for a while, since December, that is draft number 8. That's the final film. And that's how we came to it. And the Nito Torpedo thing about that is that we premiered the film in a theater in Germantown, Maryland.
Perfect.
And we had a lovely ribbon cutting ceremony before it where county executives were there and were presenting us with accomplishments. And there's Sandy and I were in the theater, and it was like about 150 plus people. We were very, very excited. And the theater, of course, is very dark. And Sandy and I are sitting up front to the left. And, we're watching the film. Of course, the two of us had seen it many times. And we're kind of just listening to the audience to see if they're into it, and they're very involved. And so it's an hour-long film. And at the end, where the end credits are rolling, the audience erupted. They were just going crazy. They were hooting and hollering and whistling and cheering and applauding and standing up. And Sandy and I just looked at each other and went, what just happened? I think we got a film on our hand here, because neither of us knew about what was going to happen. So apparently we had a documentary film on our hands.
Oh, that's so rewarding. That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
So what are you doing besides talking to me to get this out? Are you showing it again in a public location?
Well, I've done a couple of interviews for it. Yes, it's on cable TV. In Maryland, in Montgomery County. It's been shown a number of times. We're trying to put it out. We've got a couple of irons in the fire. We also want to put it in her county, which is Prince George's County, which is where she's from. There's a whole bunch of irons in the fire. I don't want to talk about them because I'm not sure they're going to come to fruition.
Okay.
But the point of the film, well, there are many points to the film, but here's my point, and I really try and subtly reveal this through the film, okay? And it's the fact that, Kathy, we all have obstacles in our life, and you mentioned it early. We all have obstacles, okay? Some of us have a few obstacles to jump. Some of them are very high. Dr. Sandra Rhode had many obstacles, and they were very high, okay? And I wanted to bring out something in the film. I almost compare it to a boxing match, okay? These obstacles that we're trying to get over. If you have an opponent in the ring and they knock you down to the canvas, you can lay there. You've got a broken nose. You're bloodied. You can either remain on the canvas and say to yourself what I said 3 years ago: I'm never going to get over this. And you can just be like, woe is me. Or you can get up off that canvas, from the canvas, and continue that fight and try and make a difference in this world. Resilience Has a Face is the example of the latter, which I really wanted to drive home. So that was my big point of the film. But everybody is going to be able to get some facet out of this film. I promise you. When we finished this film, and I say we, I mean, you understand, I was behind the camera, Sandy was in front of the camera.
Yeah.
When we finally accomplish it, and I'm talking about the theater, when everybody was applauding, we were just so thrilled, and I personally was thrilled. I said, look what I've accomplished, and I'm going to enjoy this moment. But the moment is fleeting. It's fleeting because I enjoyed it, and the next morning I woke up and I looked up and I said, well, what's next? What's next on my agenda? Because I always like challenges that are big and are hard. Okay, little ones are nice, but I don't stay away. I stay away from them because if they're easy, anybody could do it. So I like to choose the really hard assignments. And this one was really hard, and I'm wondering what is going to be next myself. I can tell you the film before this, Running with the Covert Narcissist, that was really hard because everybody I spoke to said that you couldn't make the film, but I made it anyway. So that's what I mean about trying to accomplish tough things.
Well, the other thing is the healing potential for all of this. I mean, the idea that we're all going through drastic changes right now, and we're all being asked to get out of the box that our culture or our religion or our country, whatever box we put ourselves in, and think bigger and think from here rather than just here. And that just because it's always done one way doesn't mean it's ever has to stay that way, right?
Absolutely. Let me talk about that for a second.
Okay,
you hit on something very important in my life. So, and it's in the film. It's about 3/4 of the way through the film. It's what I'm talking about. It was life changing for me, right? I am interviewing Dr. Sandra Rhodes' husband, right? And I'm sitting in a chair and he's sitting across from me, and the camera is here and the camera is pointed at him. And he's talking about something. He said, you know, a lot of people in my wife's life, or some people in her life, they were backstabbers and they tried to stab my wife in the back about her trying to do something good. And he went on to say that in the aftermath, when those offenders got into trouble or they needed help or they had strife, who came to bat for them? Because it was my wife, Dr. Sandra Rhodes, actually went to bat for them. And that element of forgiveness was just amazing. And when he said that, the hair on the back of my neck just stood up, and I must have turned ghost white because I was comparing what he was saying about forgiveness to my situation 3 years ago. Because Kathy, a lot of people were telling me, you have to forgive this guy. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. I will bet you my life it's not going to happen. I bet you my wife's life. I bet you this house that I will never forgive this guy. And they said, well, you know, when you forgive, it's really for yourself. It's not for, you know, telling the other person. And in fact, when you do forgive, it's not an admission of guilt. You're not condoning what they did. You're not saying, oh gosh, you were right and I was right. That's not what it was. And I finally got that sentiment when, right after that interview, I was packing up my tripod and camera, and I was thinking about it, that maybe this guy is going to be forgiven by me, the guy that from 3 years ago. And I did, and the weight off my shoulders was immediate. And that one moment that's in the film changed my life, and it changed it for the better. It was remarkable.
Wow. Well, that's what the opportunity is with the whole film, is for people to look at their own circumstance and integrate, just pretend you're the doc as you're going through life, and see how could you see the love that these people are, even though they're misbehaving. How can you, no matter what their actions are, see them as love, as God, as a piece of the whole, and that their actions are the things that need to be forgiven, not necessarily them? Because we all wake up, you said tomorrow I might wake up and what's my next project? We all wake up every single morning with an opportunity to select who and how we're going to be today.